Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes to change our lives. Look at the Sichos Chelek Aleph, the next section. Now, today we're going to talk about Simcha. And Simcha is an amazing idea. And what we learn, in America, they have the concept, what is it called? Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. You see, I'm American now. I know these things. So the pursuit of happiness. So one of the freedoms in America is founded on that you have the ability to pursue happiness. That your goal, you can choose to live a life of happiness. Whereas in Yiddishkeit, and we're going to see, it's going to be brought out when we learn this Sikha, that the goal is not happiness. That's like the baseline. And we're going to learn how we should be with Simcha Mitzvah Hashem. This will help us in this avodah of Simcha and have transformative rest of this month, the month of Adar. Like we say, Mishnichnas Adar Marbim Simcha, and draw it out throughout the whole year. Okay, let's see. So it says, Mishnichnas Adar Marbim Simcha. It says, when Adar enters, we add in Simcha. We're going to ask a few questions here. Because where do we learn out? It's such an interesting thing. Where do we learn out this idea that everyone knows? It says when Adar comes in, we add in Simcha. Where does it come from? It says in the Mishnah. It says Mishnah in the Tainus. Mishnichnas Av Mamatim Simcha. It says when Av comes in the Mishnah, it says when Av comes in, we decrease in happiness. And the Gemara brings out from this, Vayakhel is in connection with this, Keshem shemichanitnas av matim simcha, kach mishnichnas adam marbim simcha. So it's such an interesting thing. The Gemara says, just like in Av, we decrease in happiness, so too in Adar, we increase in happiness. Now, if you think about it for a second, what's the ikr and what's the tough? What's the main thing and what's the secondary thing? It seems here the main thing is Av. The Mishnah is talking about Av, and the Gemara is learning out from this, sort of from the negative, you learn out the positive. But what's the main thing in the negative? Such a weird way to learn from it. And this is what we're going to ask a few of these questions. We have, let's see, two questions. Nirim, Kan, Shnei Inyan Hafrim. So we see two sort of opposite things. Mein abitu kishem. When we say just like, what does that mean, just like? It means there's something, and then something like it. So there's a main thing, and then there's a secondary thing that's like it. When we say kishem, mashma she'ikahu mishnichnas av matim simcha, which means the main thing is when Av comes in, we decrease in happiness. Hanem b'mefurish b'mishnah, which is very clearly stated in the Mishnah. Ve'elu mishnichnas adam marbim simcha. Whereas when the Gemara learns out from this, that when it comes to Adar, we marbim simcha, we add in happiness. Einei elu b'chinas kishem. It's only like, just like, which is the secondary thing. And nilmad min kishnichnas Av, which is learned out from the Av, meaning Av is the main thing. The main point is when Av comes in, we should decrease in happiness. And you can learn out from that a secondary side thing, not the main thing, not even brought down in the Mishnah, is also with Adar, we can learn it out this way. That's one thing, which is very interesting. And the second thing, le'idach, is on the other hand, on a royim, ba'asher lepoyol, hamishnichnos Av matim simcha, hu mugbam. But when we see something interesting, because when we say we're learning it out on one hand, we're learning out this whole concept from Av, decreasing in happiness, but that decrease in happiness is very limited. Why? We don't decrease in happiness in everything. It's not the whole suddenly walking around all sad and depressed people. Even in Av, we have things of simcha. Yeah. Whereas in Adar, we have it's anagbalis, it's unlimited. Ad kedei ad liyadam, to the extent that we're meant to reach on Purim ad liyadam. So it's interesting. On one hand, we're learning out from Av, but on the other hand, Av is limited. The decrease in happiness is limited. It's not meant to be totally ceasing of happiness. It's just a decrease. Whereas in Adar, being happy is ad le'adar. So You'd make more sense to learn from Adar, which is Adlo Yada, which is infinite, above and beyond. And from there we learn in Av we could mamayit. But we're learning that from something limited, something, and we're learning from that limited thing to unlimited. So this is very interesting. So it doesn't make much sense. Being that the whole idea of when Adar comes in, we increase in happiness. We learn it out from being decreased in happiness. Says the Gemara, Kishem, it's Maduim came, Shenichnas Adam Marbim Simcha, who b'mid Yisera mi Hashem, so why is it more? Like you're learning out from one point and you're extrapolating it to even a greater idea. Seemingly, the further away you go, the more diminished the idea gets. But here we're doing it the opposite. We're taking a simple idea or a limited idea, and from that we learn unlimited. It's a weird way of doing it. It would make more sense to do it the other way, seemingly. Now, of course, everything in Torah is exact, and so for sure there's depth to it. Yud base. Hahezber, hapashut, ladavar hu. So the simple idea is an explanation like this. So remember, we're trying to understand, just to be clear here, we're trying to understand that we're learning out the whole idea of being happy in Adar from the diminished happiness in Av, which is very an interesting idea. So how does this work? And even more, not just the general concept itself, but the type of decrease in happiness in Av is very limited, whereas the increase in happiness in Adar is to the extent of unlimited, ad lo. So the whole dynamic is very weird. And you would think, generally, you should say, the main thing would be being happy. And then you also learn in Av, what's the sad times, so but we learn it the other way. So what's going on over here? So the simple explanation is like this. Being happy is a constant. The baseline, it's not that in Av you decrease in happiness and you go to not being happy, and in Adar you go to being happy, and the rest of the year you're somewhere in between. The baseline is we're always happy. Even in the month of Av, where we decrease in happiness, we always have the command of serving Hashem b'simcha, being happy. Like we said before in the beginning, in America, it's the pursuit of happiness. In Judaism, it's the baseline. We should generally be in a mood of happiness. Therefore, in when we add in simcha, what are we adding over here? The addition is it's unlimited simcha. I'm always happy, but now on Adar I'm become unlimitedly happy. Doesn't make any sense, but it's unlimited happiness. And so what's the decrease in Av? Because even in Av, where we diminish in happiness, that's limited diminishment, because you have to always be happy. You have the baseline of happiness. It's just we don't go above and beyond. There's no the additional happiness like in Adar. And specifically, Mishum Shatzivui, Shall if the command that we have to serve Hashem happily. So even in Av, where we're meant to diminish in the happiness, we still have to be in this baseline happiness. So in a simple sense, it's like this. I know this is something to think about. Or a way of thinking about it is like this. Kids generally have a baseline of happiness. They're just happy. They're carefree. They don't have much going on in their lives that it's burdening them down, weighing them down. They're just happy. That's the kids. They're generally happy. And then something might happen that will cause them to be unhappy. They get hurt or something, so they'll cry. But then they go back to being happy. And this is sort of how we're meant to be. I'm happy. I'm good. And this could be, unfortunately, could be an avodah for some of us, but that's a whole for bringing itself. But it's the first step in that we're learning that we have to think about is how's my approach to my reality? Am I baseline happy or baseline parv? And then sometimes I am happy, something good happens. I'm not. I have to realize that we have to step it up. We have to be in that mode of happiness. I get to, and there's chapter 33 of Tanya talks about how to be happy. and appreciating, and then ultimately happiness is very important to, I realize, to say over here. Happiness is not a result of things that we do. That's not true happiness. That's like a pleasure seeking. Happiness is a state of being. It's a recognition. I get to serve Hashem, and when you think about it, I'm healthy. I have kids, or whatever it is. I have my health. I have a place to live. I have a roof over my head. I'm warm in the winter. I have food on my table. That can bring us to happiness. It's a state of consciousness. It's a realization. It's not, let me eat something, I'm going to be happy. That's not really happiness. That's just pleasure seeking. And once you lose, like it says in Pick Up, is batal adav, batal ava. You lose that thing, you stop being happy again, which means your baseline is not happiness. So that's what we're saying. We're meant to be on this baseline of happiness. And it could be every morning, when you say morning brachas, that's essentially morning brachas. I had a friend, I'm sure I've said this before. Unfortunately, he had Yena Machla. He was young. He was, maybe 18 to 20s, early 20s. And I remember I heard someone asked him, and he wasn't so frum, so religious at the time when he got it, and he became more frum. And someone asked him, what changed from when you got it? So he said, it was a very powerful idea, and this is something you could, always meditate to become happy. He said, I never said Asher Yatzar with as much kavanah as I do now. And Asher Yatzar is essentially just that my whole body works. I can go to the bathroom I need to, and through his experience, and I guess it wasn't always easy going to the bathroom or whatever it was. So he appreciated this bracha, like, hey, I'm so grateful, I'm so happy that I can just go to the bathroom. And we don't, and that's what I'm saying. We don't realize, I go to the bathroom every day, what's the big deal? But it's just a consciousness, hey, and when you say morning bracha, say, hey, I'm so grateful that I get to go to the bathroom. And what happens when we look at other people, a lot of time we end up looking at what their milas, they have good, or what they have better than us, and we become jealous, and then we look at all our negatives, and this is how we look at things. But really, if we look at other people's chesron, it's not, hey, I'm better than you, but hey, I'm so fortunate I don't have this issue. It's like someone came to the Rebbe complaining about his kids, they're off the walls. And the Rebbe said to him, he goes, you don't understand how many people come into an office wishing to be in your situation. And the Rebbe wasn't saying, hey, there's not an issue. Yeah, you got to deal with the issue, but you have to, your approach to it is coming from a whole different perspective. Like, man, I'm so fortunate I have kids. Thank God I have kids. And this is sort of what we're talking about. And this is the general idea of being besimcha. So what's the deeper idea? And so therefore the general baseline is simcha. So then in Av, you have a limited amount of, you can't push it too far. Of course, you should be happy when you do a mitzvah, you're happy. But you can't push yourself and to doing extra happy things. Whereas in Adar, we're pushing ourselves above and beyond. So what's the deeper idea is Al Pi Masha Huzba Maimah, as explained in the Maimah that was said in connection to the Sikha. The whole purpose Hashem wants a dwelling place below. Kashem She Adam Hadar Badira Nimsa Babichal just like when a person lives in their house, they're totally there. So too, what does it mean? What does it mean? A dwelling place for Hashem in very simple English. Hashem should be in all of his essence down here. Just like when we're at home, we're totally different. For better, for worse, when we're at home, we're more comfortable, more relaxed. We pull up our feet, take off our shoes, we relax. So too, this is a divot tachtonim we're trying to provide for Hashem. And this is and tomorrow we're going to continue discussing, this is the deeper idea of this Simcha and Adar and Av. Because ultimately the question still stands. We've explained now that we have a baseline of Simcha we're meant to have. And in Adar, that goes to unlimited, Ad lo yadam. Whereas in Av, we limit that amount. We have that and not more. But the question is, why are we learning out Mishnah Adar Marbim Simcha? And the baseline is kishem, in just like in Av Mamayit we diminish, so too we add in Adar, which means the main thing is in Av, but it's weird. Av is a limited, Adar is unlimited, and Av is being not besimcha, and Adar is being besimcha. So why are we learning out Adar from Av? And that will be answered in Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow, the day after. Have a great day, everybody.